going live, whether we're ready or not. Let's see if this thing's working. If people could hear us, it's been a while since I've done a live, and I told everyone that you've never done a live before. This is your first one, Grace, so you might be a little nervous. This is what
What's
we
going
call
on?
a live stream. Yeah.
What's going on? What's going
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we on right now?
So
Maybe.
we are live. So there's some stuff going on today. There's been lots of filings. I guess there's 2 new documents, but other than that, I guess people know who Gray Hughes is, but we could give yourself an introduction if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Gray. Nice to meet you. No, I don't know. I'm Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates. You guys have seen me, obviously, the people following the Delphi case, even though there's people out there that follow the Delphi case and go, wow, I've never seen your show before. It always makes me go, man, what rock were you? I've been covering this thing. I've been covering it since the day they were missing, So no, not just kind of like somebody that showed up, 5 years later, like so many of them. But yeah, this case is one that I want solved. Probably more than it is. I think it's solved. It's just now there needs to be a trial on it. So it's one that everyone always goes, "What case do you want solved the most?" And that's always been the one. So
yeah, and I definitely learned a lot from you and would reach out and ask for help, especially with maps and stuff, because I'm really bad at them and I get lost. So I'm like, hey, help me out. Yeah, we've had different discussions. So hopefully it's been beneficial for both of us, but it's
been cool. Like, we kind of communicate behind the scenes a lot and, figure out what's really going on. And, you're one of the only sort of rational minded Delphi coverage people that there is. It's amazing how many just, I don't know what you call them, just conspiracy nutters. They don't like that stuff. Oh, did you hear what Gray just said? But it's true. It's just true. It's just true. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways of like filling in gaps. There's one, you could be creative in doing it. Another way to do it is to kind of use critical thinking. And when you want to find out something what actually happened, you got to use critical thinking first to get what probably happened. If you want to get into what possibly could have happened and be creative, then you're just going to start going all over the place. So
well, I think that's exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's exactly. I have this saying. It's fill the box with facts, then think outside of it. Doesn't that make sense? Like a lot of people think outside the box, and then right away, and they're coming up with just crazy crap out of nowhere. But if you fill the box with facts, then think outside of it, it's more of a narrow, tailored sort of, when you're theorizing on something that has a possibility of being true. Right.
Yeah, when you get stuck somewhere, then maybe, all right, well, what's possible? Now let's think out of the box. But yeah, fill it with things that are known. Just going to help you out. And sometimes you've covered so many cases, sometimes it is just, Occam's razor. It's just something simple and it's not always exciting and it's not Hollywood. Sometimes it's just a single man acting alone, living out some sick fantasy where there's not answers that people want.
With dexterity, you forgot that.
With lots of dexterity. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely. Yeah, no, it's pretty. It's amazing how many cases are that. The thing is the Occam's razor. Most cases aren't. I would say 99% aren't that crazy outside the craziness theory, but it's amazing on YouTube. 90% of them are the crazy conspiracy theories when people are covering it, but when it comes back to reality, it's always, oh, okay, something basic.
Yeah, and sometimes, I think every once in a while I feel like, hey, let's just, it hasn't been solved yet. Let's spend today's session just really stretching our minds out. Let's think of what could be possible.
Yeah.
But when you just stick to that, and then you say logic is wrong, it gets really, really difficult. So I just try and go with what is known. I didn't see you at any company parties since me and you are both. Who pays our salaries? Is it Patty's or Ice? Yeah.
Yeah, well, Patty's send me half. I get half from them, half from a quarter from ISP and the FBI the other quarter. And we were just out there protecting the Brotherhood of Odinists that are
The Freemasons. It's like, yeah, some people should learn what evidence looks
so
like.
stupid.
Evidence would be like an invoice, a pay stub, a transaction
Right.
of money, not just, oh, you're saying something that law enforcement agrees with. Well, yeah, it's the cherry picking, because I've been very critical of the investigation. I mean, I'm a business consultant. I get paid to go be critical, and I've been very critical. But sometimes it falls on deaf ears, because, like we were talking about earlier, the Doolin thing still bothers us. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. Like Robert Ives was kind of critical. He thought that they should have given out more of the video and everything early on. Yeah, he thought there was a whole bunch of stuff that you could give out to get people to engage, and those things didn't happen. But I don't have any doubt in my mind that they worked their asses off trying to figure out the case. There was just a lot of feels like tactical and sort of organizational mistakes made. I mean, if you can't have Dan Doolin's notes that he took, the fact that doesn't make it in front of the person running the show's eyes, because that's huge. A person at the crime scene during the time. I mean, that's just amazing that didn't happen. And it's not hindsight like sleuth intuition typed in. It's literally, hey, there's no way in hell that that shouldn't have made it in front of somebody, right? I mean,
Well, I think what could be worse if it did make it in front of someone and they said, "Oh no, that person, they're too short, or it's just a CVS guy, or we don't know." Right? We're just speculating there. I want to find out what happened as the consultant in me and see if I can create a system to prevent it from happening again. So let's take pretty interesting documents today. Let me share. Let's do the lemony one, just because I like saying lemony. Because it like smells good when you say it.
Yeah, I've heard that word a few times, covering so many cases and trials.
All right.
Doesn't mean I knew exactly what it meant. I thought it was like outside the presence of a jury or something. I don't know. I can't remember now.
I look stuff up. Yeah, I had to look it up. But let's see. The good stuff. I'm like, I skip over this. I'll just read that stuff later. But what everyone has been talking about is this part right here, where it says the state requests such order lemony to include but not be limited to the following.
I mean, it means a perpetual motion asking that certain evidence be found inadmissible. There you go. That's what lemony means. So go ahead now. Now we know what it means. We can.
Now that we know what it means, and I know we talked about earlier, but it's to protect people from not getting called and not to waste the court's time, the jury's time. Where imagine a defense lawyer wants to talk about aliens to the jury forever and show all these diagrams about different aliens, and you're just wasting everyone's time. So what has been a law is you have to, and I learned this from the prosecutor's podcast, and then I went and I looked it up too, but you have to have evidence to have an alternate suspect. You can't just blame whoever you want as an alternate suspect. There needs to be at least some shred of evidence that's compelling to get it even in to the court. So with these ones, the Odinism, the cult or ritualistic killing, I mean, so when I interviewed the gal from FBI, Julia, she said that there in the history that she wasn't aware, and then we saw this in a court document too, of a cult or ritualistic killing that was specifically just to sacrifice. Like sometimes there's been cults that also do like drugs, that sell drugs, so they kill someone. So they're like, is that a cult killing or was it because of their drugs? But specifically, there hasn't been where the primary motive is to do a sacrifice. There hasn't been anything recorded. So this was the case in the Delphi case. It would be the first ever in history. So to claim that, you'd need some evidence of it.
I mean, it's sort of interesting. I mean, what they're basically saying in this document is that there's no evidence to suggest Ron Logan had anything to do with it. Tony Kline and Keegan Kline, right? I mean, those are the two main names from the past. The newer names are the Odinism people up there, right? But it's kind of interesting. That's cool that they threw Ron Logan in there, because that means, I mean, everybody knows this, that if you followed the case, there's people out there that actually still believe that Ron Logan's the killer. But if you think about it, they looked at Ron Logan with a fine-tooth comb. They took the FBI in there. They looked at every single thing possible. And he really just, the lie that he put out there was so that he could avoid going to jail because he was breaking his probation. And guess what, everybody? That's exactly what happened to him. He got 2 more years in prison because he broke his probation. So that was why he was lying and coming up with time. Some of the time he put in there actually hurt him timeline wise. So it's not like he was thinking about, okay, now here's where the time frame is. Like, he literally places himself in the area during a time where it would be possible. So it's interesting to have them put in here that Ron Logan is, there's nothing. So you can't bring him up. They don't want him to.
Yeah, because there's no evidence. It'd just be a waste of time to bring someone up where there's no evidence. Now, if there's someone, I think, who was there that day, that they know where it's in the area, okay, that might be someone to bring up as an alternate theory. But I'm guessing, since Brad Holder specifically was at work and the only person who could have did their time card was either Brad Holder or someone from HR. So, I mean, I think they have his truck on video. So he has an alibi.
Yeah, and like the Keegan Kline, that's one of the ones that's hard to swallow. I was told by somebody that absolutely knows the answer, and they said that they could never find a connection between Keegan Kline and Richard Allen. They couldn't find one. That doesn't mean one doesn't exist like analogly. Like, for example, if there was a server out there that had this information and then somebody told Richard Allen, hey, there's this stuff on there, and that's not something you can prove or find or anything like that. Who knows? I mean, there might be a completely different reason that law enforcement has that he went out there. But, the murder sheet is the one that really kind of perpetuated the Keegan Kline and Tony Kline information to the point where I think most of us were like, okay, man, this is really something. And there's all these crazy things about going to the gas station and all that. And, it seems like that's just kind of fizzled away. Right in the,
It's interesting. They talk about, you could lie in an interrogation. Well, I think Baldwin brings it up in one of these documents saying, well, he was lying to Rick Allen that Holman was. Well, yeah, you could do that. You could tell him that you have evidence that you don't. So just made me think in that interrogation, then who knows that Vito and whoever else was interviewing Keegan Kline wasn't giving him misinformation to see what he would say.
Yeah, like maybe I think it's known that there was a conversation over that weekend. I mean, I think Keegan even admitted that, like he got bored or, whatever it was. But was there really communication that morning? But here's the thing, is like lying in interrogation works if you know the person can't know the answer. Like if you tell them, hey, we know that you were over at McDonald's on Tuesday, and you go, in your mind, I wasn't at McDonald's, then the lying doesn't really work. It's like, no, but if you said, I don't know, you get what I'm saying. Like, there's some things that you might know the answer to, like so-and-so said you were involved. Then you're like, oh man, did they really say that? But they didn't say that, right? They're just using that lie to get you to maybe turn on them too or something.
Yeah, and that interrogation, the Keegan Kline one, it was 2 years after the fact. So some of the questions where he's like, well, I don't remember. I'm like, yeah, probably I don't remember what I Googled 2 years ago or looked up. So,
and plus he had so much of what he was doing. He was like tons and tons of that stuff. So, hell, he probably doesn't remember anything. It's crazy.
Yeah. Here's a question about the Wabash River search, and I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm still interested in that answer.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking about that on the earlier show, that it's crazy that the tip was, given 1 week before the end of the Wabash River search. But it seems like the Wabash River search, again, according to the murder sheet, was that was regarding the Abby and Libby case and Keegan Kline. But was he just stringing along law enforcement that whole time? But man, doesn't it seem like they really believed something? Because they were searching that river for like a month.
Yeah, I mean, it just, maybe it's not Keegan Kline related. Maybe they were looking for something else as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if that wasn't a true statement by that podcast, maybe, I mean, they could have been there for all kinds of reasons, but it seems kind of like he was right there. Remember, they brought him to that facility, and then almost at the same time, they started searching that river, and it's right now where he lives. So then you start thinking, oh man, did he take Richard Allen's, the knife he used, and throw it over into the river on the way back home because he got there's like a million things.
Yeah, or did he really go to that facility? Did he really go out there?
Yeah, any of that stuff.
Yeah, I know he changed custody, but you change custody, even you could be in the same room. It's just if a different department comes in to interview you. So if you are with the Department of Corrections and you need to talk to ISP, it's going to look like transferred or like you physically left somewhere, but you could still be sitting in the same room. So it is a little misleading.
Yeah. We don't know now. Now it's hard to really trust anything we were hearing on that podcast all those months.
I agree. Yeah. Now, the other document that came out today, so state's objection to defend, motion to suppress, filed April 15th. So it looks like it was filed the 26th, but it was released to the public today. So what he's talking about here is on the 15th. He's talking about what the defense filed on the 15th, which is the motion to suppress the accused second statement, which is the second interview that was between Jerry Holman and Richard Allen. This was October 26th. And this was where he eventually got arrested after this interview.
Mm-hmm. That was the second one too, because on the 13th, I think, right, they questioned him, and then they got the search warrant, and then they had his car, and then this was apparently the one he's supposed to come back and get the car on the 26th.
Yeah, so that's when they got the car, and that's where we learned that he didn't cooperate too much on the 26th. And this came from the defense's filing that he said Rick Allen left on the first time that they talked, the first interview on the 13th, that Rick Allen, he left. He didn't want to cooperate, where he said, oh, I almost gave you my phone, but he didn't give him the phone. Where I'm guessing he left before they took a swab of his DNA of his cheek, because later in that search, they took that water bottle that had his DNA on it. So I thought that was interesting. So what we learned in this one today,
I think I agree with you too, because after reading it, it flows right into that, what it means.
It starts talking about confessions.
Yeah.
And if it is in response to, I mean, there was confessions mentioned in this one as well, but it was all mostly about the Miranda rights and the interview.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said,
it does feel like it, because they're talking about the 26th with Holman, and we know from the filing that was just done that was such a innocuous. I mean, there was nothing in there. Oh, hey, Richard Allen says he's not guilty. Holman was mean. Okay, but why would the defense want to throw that interrogation out? Because there was something else in there. So if you keep that in mind too, right? When you're gonna read this part, or
no, heck no.
I hate reading the
you do
sources.
All the reading.
I hate the sources part. Like literally, like Johnson versus so and so section. It's like, oh god, whew, wow. Yeah, but it does sound like that, right? The admissibility of a confession is controlled by determining the totality of circumstances, whether the confession was made voluntarily and was not indeed. Well, why are they talking about a confession in this section if that's not what they're referring to in the October 26, 2022 interrogation?
Right. Right. So it's, to take a step back, it's why did the defense want to suppress the October 26th interview, but not the first one? They're okay with the October 13th. That's probably because he didn't confess then. But on October 26th, he likely confessed because it did say in another document that the people he confessed to, one of them was Indiana State police officers. So this was probably the Indiana State police officers. That's where Detective or Sergeant Holman works. So they're talking about these confessions.
I think it could easily just be, he said, Jerry Holman, I'm just going to throw out a guess. Holman shows him a picture of the guy on the bridge and says, listen, we know this is you. And he goes, well, yeah, that's me, but, I didn't do anything. And then it's like, okay, boom. That's all you need. Something that basic, because they know he's the guy that had him go down the hill, right? I mean, that would be enough.
Yeah, because on October 13th in that interview, we saw some of that in the PCA. He basically does say, his bridge guy's like, well, yeah, I was dressed wearing a blue jacket and blue jeans and a thing covering my face.
Right.
Like, just basically saying he was.
On platform 1, between 1:30 and 3:30, wearing exactly the same clothing, seen by somebody 6 minutes after I would have been there. It's him, man. There's no doubt.
And to answer another question, I was talking to you about this earlier too, is October 13th. So that was the interview. They got the ballistic laboratory, the analysis results back on the 19th, but they didn't arrest him until the 26th. So I want to get your thoughts on all the cases that you covered. I mean, what do you think if they got the results back and all they had was the unspent shell matching the gun? Wouldn't they go try and arrest him on the 19th? Or why is there this gap between when they got the results of the bullet? Just speculate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That seems relatively quick too, even. I mean, if they got the ballistics back, maybe they were still just looking at all the other stuff in totality. And he's not going anywhere. He's not running or anything. So you're just kind of...
Well, they probably have eyes on him, right? Just in case.
Yeah. So they brought him in, and maybe they had enough. They were going to arrest him, but they wanted to see if they could get that confession, which likely is in that hour.
Yeah, because if they didn't get these results back from the search warrant, I don't know if they would have got that confession, to your point. They probably got some things to show him. Because all we saw was the defense wanted us to see.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're probably right. There probably was something, because we heard the parts where he's saying, look at your ejected shell, that part, but there was probably a whole bunch of other stuff that was thrown at him, right?
Yeah, all this stuff. Excuse the language, kids, but I didn't edit this out. I won't read it, but yeah, they only talk about the things that were already known based off the PCA. And this is the Holman and Rick Allen interview. So, yeah, I think there's something there.
Yeah, that would make sense that he brought up some other things. Well, listen, we found cat hair at the scene, and we dug up your cat. It matched. We did this and that and this and that and ding, ding, ding. See, that's why they're trying to get all those things thrown out. See, all these people out there, the pro Richard Allen, they always claim they just want a fair trial. No way, man. You guys are pro Richard Allen. Just be honest. And all of them, they've seen from the defense are things that aren't going to look bad, right? Even in the Odin document, there's nothing. There's nothing in anything. They never put out the stuff that's really, really damning to Richard Allen, because they want to keep you guys as fanboys and fangirls. Okay, it's just absolutely crazy what they're doing. And this is my thoughts, not Fig.Solves. Okay. Even if you think something similar.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
So one thing that always bothers people is the statement from McClellan about the other bad actors, just kind of swinging back to thought of, was Keegan Kline involved? Is it the Odinists? Why were they saying there's other bad actors? And so I haven't covered nearly as many shows as you, any crimes, hardly any, but just a few that I have. I heard them, like there was the one that you covered. I learned about it from you, where it was a pregnant girl who was shot and killed along with her drug dealing boyfriend. It was just a few
Oh
months
yeah,
ago.
yeah, that was a crazy one. Yeah.
And like, what, the guy's parents helped in some way?
They pulled up. I think they drove. I think they drove. The killer was in the car, and they did something where they like handed something and wiped something down, and then he just kind of pulled a little bit further around and parked it, and I think they then picked him up and drove him somewhere.
Right.
The actual, so the bodies were still in that vehicle. Yeah.
So just looking at things, saying, because Nick McClellan, he said there's other bad actors or possible other people involved. The likelihood of it, he wasn't saying that we think someone else murdered them, or that there's all these other small things that they wanted to look. And definitely once they make an arrest, remember Doug Carter said they're going to hire 80 to 100 people or whatever it is. That's them going back and seeing if there is any connections. So, maybe they're going to check on if there was a Keegan Kline connection with Rick Allen. So once you have that piece, that missing piece that they got, I believe they needed all those people to go back and see if, like, for example, if the guy BW who, had the van out there, like, hey, we interviewed him and, did he see something? Now that you know that Rick Allen is the person, or that you strongly believe that he is, then you're going to go back and see if any of these connections were made. So, yeah, I think maybe the document that he came out with, maybe it was him trying to say, like, yeah, maybe I should have said other bad actors, or maybe I think that was kind of a result. You're going to get some of the things because it's open to interpretation. But I hear other prosecutors from other cases say, the investigation just started, like phrases like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all those. I mean, it's kind of strange that they named all the people in that a little bit that you were just looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just looking at that again. Why not just say anybody associated with the Odinist cults or the Klines, or, I guess you could have to say Ron Logan or the Klines, but, you're putting their names out there again. Yeah. Well, what was the point? I guess I don't know if I got the point where you were heading. I was like a dog with like a shiny object, and I saw those names again, and I was thinking, oh man, why did they?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, my point was with these other bad actors, that just because Nick McClellan said that, we don't need to jump down to, he's talking about someone else who participated in the murders, something.
I see.
Yeah,
that's right.
Could have been, he was just saying, could have been he was talking about Kathy Allen, who knew about it but didn't say anything. She was withholding information, but our minds, again, how creative we are, we'd like to jump down to the most crazy thing.
Yeah, and he said
people there.
Yeah, right. He said something like that too. But see, that's when you first make the arrest. You don't know all the details at that point. It's the investigation after, basically after the 26th is when there was some good stuff with the bullets and everything. But I would say after he was arrested and charged, that's when the real deep dive investigation begins. And I don't think they found a soul other than him that did this. And it wasn't an Odinist. I can tell you that. Well, here's the thing. I always tell people, if you want to agree that Richard Allen is an Odinist, I'll go down that route with you. I'll say, hey, he was an Odinist. He did this, but there was no other Odinist at the scene. All right, it's still him with the tree branches and everything. Yeah.
Meerkat, Greg could answer this too, but yeah, I just think they're lying. There's something, the 130 thing, because of all this, the defense is now, all of the theme of their new documents is cell phone. Get rid of Libby's cell phone. We want that out. We want the metadata out from that. That's probably because law enforcement has something that places Rick Allen at the crime scene at that time. And then when you have the metadata from her phone as the standard, now you're screwed. So
yeah, maybe I think we were talking about it before. One of the, let's say Richard Allen, because he had a ton of phones at that house. You remember that? There was like 10 of them. Maybe he had a burner phone, and at the time they didn't know, but they went and looked at that data dump. When they take all the cell phones that were pinging, and there is that phone, the burner, and it was right there on the bridge in that area, at that time. And by the way, Richard Allen said he was on platform 1 on the stock market. Well, that obviously would mean his phone would ping right there in the area. So let's say his phone doesn't ping in the area. That's a proven lie right there. Why would he be using a burner on the bridge to look at the stock market? I don't know, see, that's the thing.
Yeah, that it should show up right as a stock like so in the geofencing. How come his phone didn't show up if he said he was on a stock ticker? Or
right.
did it show up? Yeah, I don't think it did.
One thing that's a little crazy is if you draw a line from the cell tower by Logan's house to Richard Allen's house, it goes right in the middle of the bridge. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. So it's like, I don't know if it's just one tower as a point of reference, what that means. I think there must be a way that you can get the distance of a ping from the tower just based off of like how, the time it pings back or something. I mean, I don't really know all those aspects. I know how it works with the angles and triangulation and stuff, but if you only have one tower, you can tell which third came off of. But other than that, it's really hard to tell you precisely where somebody was.
Oh yeah, just with cell phone. If you're just using cell phone tower now, if you had GPS on your phone, and that's not a constant, where something from your app, goes into the internet at a certain time, one of your Google, ran apps, then so they could combine things together. What they like to do. So say Rick Allen's walked by the Weber's house, and his phone has Wi-Fi capabilities, and it tried to connect to their Wi-Fi, even though it didn't connect. There's going to be some metadata on that on the router. So you start piecing things together, piecing a route together. Then there's a cell phone ping. Yeah, it could be pretty inaccurate out there. I think up to 3 miles. Like it's crazy how inaccurate it could be. But when you tie that with
him
GPS,
saying,
yeah. And
well, also him saying I was there. Yeah, him saying he was there. So if there's a ping and it goes, wow, we don't know what that is. Well, Richard, you said you were on platform 1 when you were looking at the stock market or walking down the trail, right?
Yeah, and for him changing his timeline, remember, he confessed to the murders. He's saying he was there during the time the girls were there because he confessed to the murders. He's saying he was there. He committed the crime. So with Richard Allen most likely being a lone wolf, why do you think he selected Abby and Libby? I think we have different thoughts on this, Gray. Hard to get over the pre-planning that appears happened there.
Yeah, yours is, I think, where you say he used to go there all the time and they would go there all the time, and somehow maybe he saw them and it was just, luck kind of that day that they happened to be there, like when he was there because they would go there. Is that more like yours?
Yeah, mine's a boring one.
Yeah, mine is way more interesting. No, I don't know. I don't
Slightly.
know. No, mine.
I mean, I see why you say it.
Yeah, mine is weird because it, I guess in that case it sort of has to involve some other like Richard Allen knew that the girls were going to be there that day. He had his head down when he passed those 4 girls. They said he was on a mission, like he was trying to get somewhere. And it's amazing how he got there just literally like 8 or 9 minutes to the bridge in front of Abby and Libby. And Libby looks a hell of a lot like his daughter looks. His daughter had just been engaged in November. And so maybe there was something about that. So like 3 months later, maybe that's a stressor of some sort. And you got his daughter looks just like Libby. There's photographs of his daughter on the bridge sitting there. And then there's also a picture of her on a bed in the house wearing one of the Libby and Abby tie-dye shirts, which to me is, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people have those shirts and everything, but it's just, it's hard to overlook that similarity. And then it seemed like he was on a mission knowing that they were going to be there. Don't you have that feeling kind of like he knew that they were going to be there, just how he hustled and he was just right there? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the counter to that is, Becky said it was kind of a spur of the moment trip. Mm-hmm. And Rick Allen was there before they got there. So we know he wasn't following them. If it was spur of the moment, it's hard to remember everything being.
Yeah, but here's something interesting that we haven't really thought about. It's like, okay, so he got there at 1:32-ish, like 1:30 where he parked. And then he probably got where he passed the girls at 134. I have. But anyways, so it only takes, I think, 10 minutes from his house to get there. So he would have had to leave his house at about 1:20. Maybe something like that. 1:19. But the thing is Abby and Libby, I think, were planning to go there before that. So what changed? Like, why didn't they ask Derek to give them a ride? See, Derek had just left right a little bit before that, and he took off to take photographs in Frankfurt for Becky's appraisal business. He took off, and they could have easily got a ride from him, but just a little bit after that, Kelsey says, yeah, I'm going to go visit my boyfriend. And they go, yeah, can we get a ride? So you wonder if there was some sort of Snapchat conversation with somebody where they just wanted to quickly now go to the bridge. And then, isn't that amazing? Because that'd be like about 1:10 or something like that. And then you get this perfect timing where he leaves his house and he gets there a little bit before, because they're not leaving right away. They leave at like 1:35 or something. Maybe about 1:37, because it only takes 10 minutes from their house, and they passed, I think it was 1:47 or 1:49, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you think of that? It's pretty crazy, right?
I'm definitely more open to it for the fact that they're trying so hard to get Libby's phone thrown out. And my first assumption is because it is the metadata from the video, but it could also be, like you're saying, a connection. Maybe Libby talked to a burner phone and they could never connect it. And then Richard Allen turns on his regular cell phone. Because if you look at the search warrant, it asks for a specific number. So that means they already did their research. They want that phone. You don't put it in a search warrant unless you want that specific phone. And now they want Libby's phone. The defense wants Libby's phone thrown out. So there's some connection between the phones. And it could just be as simple as that they were both in the same area at the same time. And they can now prove it because the GPS, the geolocation, the geofencing technology has improved, just like the DNA, like we're talking about earlier, technology has improved. The hair samples.
Yeah, and it definitely, the thing is with Richard Allen, the things that are always conflicting to me was the luck element that he had. So the thing is it takes away from my theory. So that's why I'm not always married to something, because I know the counter is he gets there and he's there for Abby and Libby, right? Or Libby, specifically. Abby was just there, but he gets there and there could have been 400 people. I mean, there could have been 40 people at the bridge and all that stuff, and it wouldn't have happened. And this stuff wouldn't have happened. But miraculously, I mean, I've done this animation where after Abby and Libby get to the bridge, the only other person anywhere within any distance at all is Betsy Blair, and she's probably closer to the Freedom Bridge at this point. And then she goes to her car and drives away just as Libby is filming the Richard Allen on the end of the bridge. Okay, so at that moment there was nobody in that entire park. But what are the odds that? See, for me, that's the hunter theory, where you've got this guy. He's just out there waiting. Hell, if Betsy Blair had gone out there, was that going to be the target? She didn't. She turned around immediately, so they couldn't do anything. But if, like Abby and Libby, he was just sitting there and he was like, oh, man, what a golden opportunity, because they went out on that bridge, right? Because how did he get so lucky? Like that's what it is. It's almost pure luck that on that timing. Even if he was there intentionally for them, the fact that there was nobody there was pure luck, because there were a lot of people after, there was people before. So, that sort of, takes away from my theory a little bit.
I think you have to be flexible in thinking, because we don't know yet. And with that Garmin, here's my speculation, just going through that Axiom training. I was going through their YouTube training course. So I feel like I'm a pro in Axiom, which is the geofencing. I'm not a pro. But if they did something where they expanded their zone, like in this picture, they're geofencing. So maybe you know better than I how far away Rick Allen lived. It was 1 point something miles away.
Yeah, it wasn't far.
But if they expanded that search out and the geofencing, from the crime scene, and then, maybe they first extended out to I don't know, his neighborhood. And then they had this phone, this burner phone that hasn't been turned on ever. And then all of a sudden it gets turned on. And then that triggers something because you could do that with geofencing. You could set a phone number in there. And if it gets turned on, it will alert the law enforcement who's tracking it.
Yeah.
Another thing is once they got that Garmin, that thing back, during the search warrant, that could have put him there when he said he was home by 1:30 or whatever, but nope, that could show because I looked it up, that type of device, the Garmin, where even if you don't put in the address, it will still track GPS. You have as long as it's powered on. If you
So
have
you had a Garmin, you had a Garmin watch or something?
a Garmin, what is it that you just put like a GPS navigation system in his car?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, Garmin's just specifically, that's kind of their main thing is GPS stuff. They're really good at like, have golf sites and watches and, I mean, that's their gig. So yeah, you would think as soon as it's turned on, it's getting GPS information.
Right. So if they got that back in the search, then that could be something.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably have this little dotted line that goes down the trail, across the bridge, down the hill, across the creek, and to the crime scene. I mean, wouldn't that be just insane if they had something like that? I mean, oh, geez. It would be unbelievable. I think the prosecution's been ready to go to trial for a long time here. I think a lot of the stuff is just sort of smoke and mirrors, I mean, you could say that they're trying to get the two attorneys off was an attempt to slow it down, but I think it was purely because those guys are just, in my opinion, really the most unethical people I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, what did it for me, they said with Abby, the slow and a painful death, like totally unnecessary.
Right.
Even their crazy story, but just what was the point of that?
Right, and how they said it over and over again. Not just the one time. It was they did the same thing like one single solitary man acting alone with dexterity. They started doing the same repetitive thing with how Abby died. I mean, what a joke these guys are. Embarrassing.
It's disgusting. And then they started to Aspen's comment here is they were almost going with, well, maybe they weren't killed that day. I forget which document that was. I know you read it and it bothered you too, where they're kind of hinting at, well, we're not even sure if their bodies were moved or they started going into that crap.
Jeez. Oh, God. People still believe that stuff. I mean, they still talk about how their bodies were moved merely because, and the defense says they were moved and staged, right? All that means is they were right there. I mean, they were right there and just moved a little bit and put some, it doesn't mean, they were in a cabin somewhere or a hut or whatever you want to call it and moved there later. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because you could tell where they were killed. And it says in the Ron Logan search warrant that they were killed where they were found, basically. And there's blood spatter. You could tell where they were killed. And my question to you is, all the cases you covered, when an abduction site, is it ever the same as a dump site? I mean, like, why would you take someone and then return them to the same spot that you abducted them from?
That'd be one of the dumbest things in the history of mankind, especially when there's people searching around in the area to try to find.
Yeah, and you're risking it,
right?
Being to put them in the back, the same spot.
Is anybody coming? Is anybody? Hey, I see the guy with the flashlight over there. Sneak him in there.
Yeah, why Wouldn't not you just take him in the cabin?
Yeah, or drive him 75 miles away. I mean, it's a little bit like the Lyric and Elizabeth case. That guy drove him, 40-something miles. I don't even remember how many miles, but a long ways away. And that's the normal way to do it. I mean, even in the Madeline Soto, he drove her like 30 miles away and put her on the side of the road.
To risk with all the searchers out there and carrying these two bodies out there.
And one body Libby weighed 200 pounds. And she's not alive. That would be incredibly difficult for multiple people to sit there and just move around and put down there. Okay, it doesn't make any sense at all. But if you want to, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, people just look for ways to make something make sense when it doesn't. It's wild.
Yeah, because then you could say, oh, it was multiple people, because it would take multiple people to do that. So they start with their theory already, and they try and work things into that theory.
Right, but if you're just dragging somebody like 30 feet, a grown man could pull somebody that weighed 200 pounds along the ground. Now they say, oh, but there's no drag marks. Here's the thing, everybody. We don't even know how far they were moved. It could have been 3 feet, you know? All they said was that they were, when they say staged, I think they're referring to probably like the branches maybe. Because, I mean, there's branches laying across that are intentionally laid there. Are they runes? I don't believe so whatsoever, okay? I think Abby actually was, I think that's where she was, to be honest with you. I think she was, you know, unfortunately, she's probably still alive for a while. I mean, if you look at it, I don't know if you want to see this, but like it was like this with her hands inside the sweatshirt, like that, right? So that's when you're trying to stay warm. And it was weird to me, that part. So, you know, it kind of makes me angry, actually.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to think.
Yeah.
So one thing on the Frank's memo, the one we were talking about, where they stated they made all these claims that there's no DNA evidence, which maybe at the time before they received the discovery, maybe it was true that they believed there was no DNA evidence. No DNA links Richard Allen to the crime scene. But I hear people will still quote this stuff, but it's from September 18th, 2023. And they've been saying here that defense should be picking up new discovery on September 18th. I mean, they want discovery so bad, but it took them a week, and they still didn't pick it up when it's ready for them.
Do you think this is going to go to trial? I have a really strong feeling that in the next 5 or 6 days they're going to waive their speedy trial thing. Maybe even next Monday or Tuesday, something like that.
I don't know.
They don't sound like they're ready at all based on what they're typing. Right.
No, they're trying to delay it, and the unfortunate thing is, I think if it gets delayed once, it's going to keep getting delayed.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be 2025 if they delay this one before it even gets anywhere near a courtroom.
And are you planning on going?
Well, I'm planning on going to this one, but I had to pay extra to be able to cancel different things, you know, because I just have a feeling too. You know, I've had a feeling just reading this, but also, you know, also somebody told me, I don't know, they might be canceling it. So we'll see. Now they're going to try to waive the speedy trial.
Yeah, and
they have a right to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why they're playing the mental health card again. Because remember, they tried it early on at the beginning when he was a prisoner of war. They said, you know, he's mentally ill and all these things, and then they went to the Odinist, and now they're going back to it. And I think the reason they're going back to it is, like you said, they want to delay the trial.
Yeah, I mean, but everything they're saying now, well, they didn't give us this until just recently. They didn't give us that, and they're trying to play to the sympathy of their fans because they were trying to get cocky before by saying, hey, let's do a speedy trial. You guys don't have crap. Yeah. Oh, wow, you guys have a ton of stuff. You know, we didn't get this. So obvious. They're so easy to, you know, I don't know what they're going to do, but you think a plea deal, Lynn? I wouldn't be surprised. And man, what will those freaking Richard Allen supporters say at that point? Oh my God. Well, they just forced him to do it. There was an Odinist.
Corruption did it. Corruption person. They do all the things.
Yeah. It's amazing how many Odinists are in the government, and federal government. The FBI obviously has a few in there too, because, you know, they were also convinced that the Odinists had nothing to do with anything.
And there's part of me that think, I mean, after all these, so many confessions, and especially if he did October 26th, and even if he didn't, where it's like maybe Rick Allen himself wants to get this thing over with or done. He wants to get something off of his chest, and like his lawyers won't let him. They're like, no. But it was interesting, Jerry Holman in this interview, the first time I ever heard death penalty mentioned, and now Holman could have been bluffing or just talking stuff to Rick Allen. But during the October 26th, there was a part where Jerry Holman said, "Yeah, you'll get the death penalty." So if they are telling him that, then maybe he would be willing, trying to do a plea deal. I just don't know if his defense team would want him to do a plea deal, because that means they're out of the spotlight. They won't get all the attention. So
and that might be kind of what that might be what Goal was kind of seeing. It's not in his best interest to have those two attorneys. It wasn't some conspiracy to get these crackerjack attorneys off the case. It was like this guy, like she knows. I mean, don't the judges get to see some of the evidence? I mean, they see these things throughout. They rule on things, right? So they're looking at the evidence. She can probably see the writing on the wall in this case, right?
She's the one who assigned them, like chose them initially. So she's why would she pick them and then have it out for them? And just it's based off of their behaviors. Why she had it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think their behavior was absolutely ludicrous when you consider, I mean, I think the first thing, remember that it was just a Scout's honor kind of, hey, we're thinking of doing a gag order, and they go, oh, you don't need to do a gag order. We're not going to talk about the case. And then boom, I mean, 2 days later, they're out there with this big press conference throwing out all this stuff. Then the gag order was put in place. Then they shared accidentally the witness list with a criminal, and then that criminal did a YouTube video, yay, and then they made a really strict gag order on it, and then the Odin stuff started coming out, right? It just goes on and on and on, never ends. That document was so against the gag order that, don't you think? I mean, it had crime scene details in it. How come that wasn't mentioned, by the way, by McClellan in any of those sort of, going through what they did? That's just
I thought
weird.
It was. I'm not 100% sure because I've gone through so many now, but maybe I just assumed that it was. But I remember we talked, because the crime scene photos and all that stuff happened, like October 6th, 9th, somewhere around there. But we talked before that. When you're telling me about some Odin stuff in September before this memorandum was out, and I'm like, what the hell? Why Odinist? And I didn't take it real serious. I don't think you did either.
Right. It was weird. Well, I'd heard of Odinist because that was what people talked about at the beginning, right?
But
at the beginning
of the defense is actually going to go this route, and it didn't sound right.
Yeah, it was weird because I was driving back from Idaho for covering the Idaho 4 case. I was in Moscow, Idaho, and one of the freaks called me up and go, "Great, you're not going to believe this. This Odin, they're going to bring up Odinism and a whole bunch of this other stuff." And she even mentioned that they were going to talk about the confession and what it said. So that never made it. But and then, then I drove to Indiana to Delphi, and on the way there, the document finally came out. But what's weird is I knew that it was going to be leaked before. I mean, that's what's so... it's just so obvious that it was all an orchestrated plan by the defense team, So...
Yeah, so it wasn't this one-time thing.
No.
Like you're saying, he just snuck into their room and, took pictures of it. Like, no, it was ongoing.
Yeah, and Westerman, see, here's the thing. I don't know, you have probably different listeners than I do, but Westerman didn't go into the office and take pictures. This is my opinion. He did not go into the office of, which one is it? Rosie, Baldwin's office. He didn't go in there and take pictures of images on the table because Westerman was given the Frank's memorandum in support of the Frank's hearing, which is the Odin document, before that, and was given all of the supporting images. So he already had those images. So can you explain to me why he'd have to go into Baldwin's office and take pictures of those images if he already had them?
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. So what it really is that he's covering, they didn't think the investigation would lead back right to that office. So the buck stops at Westerman so it doesn't hit Baldwin and Rosie. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and he fell on the sword for them.
Exactly. And just said, oh, it was all my fault. And, it's just so clear. I think Westerman was giving stuff to Fortune for a long time in this case, and I think they're actually who gave different information to different, podcasters and other YouTubers out there. They got all this sort of inside information stuff that they wanted out.
Yeah, because they cropped the photos. So there was 4 that got released. I know there's 2 that are, I guess, the most known because it kind of showed the crime scene. But then there's another one that's cropped to make it look like the horns. Yeah,
that's
but
Abby's
like,
the head, right? Abby's the head. Yeah,
it's because they didn't want to show that those shoots were all over the place.
Right.
Those little twigs. Right. When you just crop it. So whoever was doing it was trying to show an agenda, try and paint a picture in a specific way instead of being honest and transparent. It's another reason why the Odinist stuff is bullshit, because if it was true, why do you need to edit things and crop them to make them look a different way than what they really look like?
Yeah, the images were released intentionally by the defense team to support the Frank's memorandum, in my opinion. They tried to put it out there and go, look, because it looks unusual seeing branches laid out. But, I think they were put out there so that they could then put more branches, and I think he got spooked off and got the hell out of there before he got finished doing what he was doing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I think I was wrong about it. First, I'm like, there's no way they leaked these on purpose. And my whole reason for thinking that is because there's no antlers. Like, why would you put this out? It debunks what they're saying. But I guess I don't know, underestimated the public perception of the crazy people who would be like, yeah, those are horns. Like,
what's the 4th image? I don't think I've ever seen the 4th image. Can you describe that one? Is that the clothes in the water, or is there a 4th image of
it was like Abby's feet, like her legs down by, like, kind of showing how they're
maybe I did see
crossed
that
at the end.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to touch on? I know the chat's moving fast, and I'm not keeping up.
I don't have to like jump right out at a specific time. So don't worry if you're trying to.
Okay. Let's do a few questions then. No, I gotta run at a certain time. All your sins.
Oh, that's right. You had something.
Sending a message to the community. I don't know where they said that. I believe it.
What do you think about
I don't know where that's from to get the context of it. I haven't thought about it.
What does that mean? Crime to send a message. What do you mean? I don't even know what that means.
Send a message to the community. So the BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit. Yeah, and it depends where that information came from, because it seemed like the defense was misquoting a lot of the things that they're saying. And when I interviewed Julie, she was like, hey, the FBI never said it was Odinist. They said, and she kind of called it, if you go back and listen to the interview, she's like, oh, they probably just took something out of context, meaning like they called up and asked a question and said, like, hey, if you saw this and like say the sticks related like this, then what would you think? And the defense only used that answer. They took out kind of the opening disclaimer.
I don't even know what anybody's talking about here, though. That's the thing. I have no clue. Was that in a document somewhere, or what is that? Crime to send.
Yeah, I don't know where this one was.
Oh, crime to send a message. Okay.
So yeah, maybe give me some more update. But in one of the documents, the defense says, like, look, even the FBI thinks that it was. They said some Nordic type of things left there. But the whole story, once the whole story came out, it was like, well, yeah, you were giving them a hypothetical, and you took an answer that was answering a hypothetical, and you claimed that to be factual. So that's kind of what.
Oh, I see. So they're saying the BAU determined that the crime was done to send a message. I was trying to not really understanding how the not selected victim, but defense sending message to the community. I don't know. I mean, that then, of course, if you're an Odinist person, you got to say it like that, because then it's like it's a message that they wanted people to see when they got to the crime scene. Instead, it could just be sticks were laid, one after another, the same way on both girls.
Yeah, and with the this Todd Click guy. So kind of on the investigations, how they, they'll send a team of detectives down different rabbit holes or down different tentacles to go and investigate those things. Is it drug related? Is it internet related? This was like Vito, what they were on with Keegan Kline. They checked sex offenders, the RSOs. It was Lesenby said that they were looking at that, the violent offenders at first. And yeah, in cases, they look at the friends, the family, they look at enemies. So I think what happened with this Click guy looking at the Odinist stuff is like, yeah, you're sent down a rabbit hole. So what's the saying? If you're a hammer, then everything becomes nails. But really, you kind of just get those horse blinders on, say like, yeah, this is what I found. And yeah, they're looking into his background. I guess Nick wants to look into his records and see if there's something about him that is not stellar.
I mean, I think it was so out of bounds for him to. I mean, he caused so many problems by him going, hey, and then sending this notarized, whatever it was, like a 82-page document. It's almost like he didn't feel like, he got enough credit for the work he was doing. And you send it in. Hey, Click. They got the guy that they found that's interesting because he fits.
Right.
They got the information. It's a probable cause about Richard Allen, not your little Odinist people.
Yeah. And he worked on it from 2018 to 2021. So yeah, what happens is if you look at the brain here of the octopus, that they don't always, right, that goes up to the leadership. So you don't know what's going on in the other areas and the other tentacles per se. So yeah, you don't know what other evidence there is on a Richard Allen So it's just kind of a way I look at things.
Yeah, it's weird because that internet sees Sam, and then and actually everything's more on the right side. The internet and the serial killer more likely. I mean, he's not a serial killer that we know of, but his behavior that day was definitely serial killer like. Like he's, that's what basically serial killers do. Very similar things. They abduct people, kill them, and leave a calling card, signature of some sort.
Yeah, and the way he kind of posed the bodies, it was just very, very strange.
But it's not friend. They looked at all the stuff you're saying up there for sure. On that octopus.
Yeah, you have to. I like saying octopi, even though I think that's plural and there's only one octopus there. But it's just a fun word to say.
Yeah. Sounds like something you could actually eat at that point.
Yeah, because a pie. Yeah, you could eat a pie.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, I do appreciate your time and coming on, because I was like, I don't want to do one by myself. That's boring. So I'll bother Gray and see if he'll come on.
It was fun. Yeah, we should do it again sometime. Do some, pick a topic and just see what it ends up, what we come up with in this case. I know you're kind of stuck on this one. You do this case mainly. You did a little bit of. I think you started looking into Lyric and Elizabeth for a little bit, but
I'm still interested in that.
Yeah, it is interesting. It seems like you get kind of stuck though at a certain point. It's hard to, not just you, anybody that's looking at it. It's like you're right there, where the bike was, and then there's almost nothing. There's some interesting people and characters that family members have brought up, but then it's, what do you do now?
Yeah, there's no BG picture photo. There's nothing. I think that was intriguing about Delphi, where it always seemed solvable because there is some video, some pictures, some voice. We're like, if we could just put those things together.
Well, that's what's interesting is about Delphi is that shows you. I can. This is what I'll guarantee you guys. If that video, that little clip that Libby filmed, if that didn't exist, this case would have a 100th the popularity. Because that is the one thing, if you can get video or some kind of audio, some sort of social media going on, then cases get really big because people feel like they can figure, like you just said, figure something out by looking at the video and the audio. So that's why she's even a bigger hero. Not only did she film the person, but it made it so the case was a lot bigger and had eyes on it.
Yeah, and I think probably prevented Rick Allen or whoever for killing again, because now that you've been spotted, I would think that would kind of prevent. We're like, crap, I've been seen. Now I need to play it extra careful. So yeah, I think her getting the video is such a
It's huge.
heroic thing to
Yeah,
do.
because like in the Lyric and Elizabeth case, imagine if there was a video there. It'd be huge. I mean, that case is like two girls on a bike. They're riding around the neighborhood. Their bikes are found by a path. There may have been a white van seen. And then their bodies are found by hunters like 40 miles away in hunting season in like the snow. I mean, man, if there was just something.
I think it's more dark even than Delphi. I mean, those girls were
totally.
abducted and gone for days.
Yeah.
Even if there was a suspect in the Florida fires, I think people would be just as intrigued, because if you could see someone, like you said, then there's some hope. Yeah, but when you just have nothing at all,
yeah, and I think that's kind of like what's going on in like Sebastian Rogers' case. I don't know if you've looked at that at all, but this kid he's just poof, gone, nothing. There isn't video, there isn't anything in that case. And of course, that's when you invent a boogeyman. I think you kind of, so, everybody goes after the step parents like as if they're the killers, but there's zero evidence at all at this point. And I think a lot of cases always do the boogeyman thing. When you run out of stuff, you come up with Odinism, like early on in the case.
Yeah, you go with the family, the people who show up on TV, because those are the only characters that you know. So you're gonna blame the people who you could identify. Oh, I bet it was this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost like, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 subs just because I went on, the Proudfoots are the step parents. And, I've talked to Chris Proudfoot. I think he sounds like a normal person. Their law enforcement said that they have done every single thing that they've asked them to do. They've helped them out since the beginning, and they can find no evidence of foul play on the part of the family. And for me, that's enough for the public to just shut the hell up for a while and let people investigate. If it turns out later they're involved, great, but to sit there and trash them and that's what I said on Web Sleuth. And everybody's like, oh, you're befriending a killer. And I'm like, a killer? What the hell are you talking about? These guys aren't named killers, It gets really frustrating, the whole true crime community. It's like a mob of wackos,
Because people, I guess I don't look into stats enough where, yes, if a child is killed inside the home, okay, so if a child is killed, they look at the parents first, right, the people who they know, but it's if they're killed inside of a home. So like with the Delphi thing, and the victims are killed outside, like, why, if the family members were involved, why wouldn't they do it inside of their house? Because then you could explain away all the DNA. Like, why would you have Sebastian or someone go out in public and then do it that way where you get caught? It's as silly as returning a body to the same spot.
And like in this case, it's like 15-year-old people run away all the time. I mean, that's like the age people run away, and it's in the middle of the night, and only the mom's at home, and he's gone. He disappeared, and they have no lights in the neighborhood, so he doesn't show up on surveillance cameras. It's just it's a nightmare case, really. So, I know everybody looks at the parents, but I think it's the right thing to do is to stand up and say, can you guys calm the hell down about the parents? If something develops later, great. But, man, people just hate you if you... It's just like when I say, Becky and Mike are good people and they have nothing to do with it. The people that think that, they're like part of this big conspiracy to raise money and steal money from the ballpark. They just hate my guts. Like, they literally think I'm a monster for supporting Becky and Mike. And Kelsey.
Victim's family. Yeah, who've gone through a traumatic experience.
Yeah, right. They have nothing to do with anything. And it's just, these people are disgusting, So...
All right, great. Well,
but anyways, I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for coming on. We'll do it again.
All right, sounds good.
All right, have a good night, and thanks to everyone.
Oh, you're taking off too? All right, do you guys.
All right.
I don't know how to get out of here.